Welcome to the screencast on multiplying and dividing integers. The big question here is figuring out which sign our products and quotients should have. I'm going to go ahead and summarize the rules first, and then we'll work backwards to make sure we understand why they work the way they do. So first of all, if I multiply or divide two positive numbers, no surprise, I'm going to get a positive product. Second case, I might take a positive number and multiply or divide it by a negative number. That result is going to always be negative. I could also take a negative number, multiply or divide by a positive number. That will also always have a negative result. And finally, the hardest case to explain why, taking a negative and multiplying or dividing by a negative, which will actually result in a positive product. So I'm going to start with multiplication of two positive numbers. I'm going to use 2 times 3. I can choose to visualize this a couple of different ways. One way is I could see two groups of positive 3. Here are my two groups of positive 3. That gives me a total of 6. I could also see 3 groups of positive 2. Here they are. That's still 6. So there we go. Now I'm going to take positive 2 times negative 3. One way that I could visualize that is 2 groups of 3 negative numbers. So I have a total of 6 negatives. So now we see a reason why that would come up with a negative product. I'm going to switch those signs. Let's take negative 2 times positive 3. I'm going to see this as 3 groups of 2 negatives. So here are my 3 groups of 2 negatives, still a negative 6. I want to note that when we learned about adding integers, we cared a lot about which type of number there are more of. Are there more positives or are there more negatives? In this case, the same logic doesn't apply because we're not just grabbing a bunch of stuff and putting it together and looking for objects that cancel. This is describing how many groups of that number we have. And I chose to say that this would describe how many groups of negatives I have here. So finally, for these sign rules, we must have negative 2 times negative 3 equals positive 6, because I said that's the rule. The hard part is explaining why that is. So I'm going to try to convince you of that now. I'll take this problem, and let's look at a division sentence that involves these numbers. If 2 times negative 3 equals negative 6, it must be true that negative 6 divided by negative 3 equals positive 2. I'm using the same 3 numbers from this sentence for the division sentence. Well, one way you could visualize that, if I have 6 negatives, dividing by negative 3 is kind of like saying how many groups can I make that each have 3 negatives in them? Well, I can make 2 groups that have 3 negatives in them. Since I also claim that division and multiplication follow the same sign rules, if a negative divided by a negative is positive, then by my claim, it must be true that a negative times a negative equals a positive. I hope that this screencast on multiplying and dividing integers has helped you understand the sign rules. Thanks for watching.